everyone. It's Michelle Caruana from Play Cafe Academy and Profitable Play. And before I get started with today's topic for this video, I just wanted to be completely honest about something. This video is not scripted. I didn't do, a whole outline like I do for a lot of my other videos, but this is a topic that I really felt called to discuss like as soon as possible because it's something that has come up a lot recently in Playmaker Society, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I think it's so important to talk about and be really honest and transparent about, especially for those of you who are still in the daydreaming and planning phases of the indoor playground business. And also for those of you who are really in the thick of it and are struggling a little bit. And in today's video, again, I want to talk about one of the biggest, if not the biggest misconception in the indoor playground play cafe business. And this misconception is that it's going to be, really easy and basically a dream to have your kids work with you every day, that you're going to be able to work behind the counter and, involve your family and things like that. Because the reality of it is that it is extremely difficult to work in this type of business alongside your children. And, I've done it. A lot of people inside of Playmaker Society have done it, or at least they set out wanting to do it. And, all of us have different kids, with different personalities. They're in different age ranges. They have different levels of need. And I got to tell you, I know this video is going to upset some people. I know a lot of you guys are listening to this and thinking, well, I'm going to be different, or my child is different, or my situation is different. And I promise you, again, there's, I think, almost 250 people in Playmaker Society, many of who have been open for years, who are on their second and third locations. And I'm telling you, not one single person, as we were talking about this, disagreed with me on this point. And if anything, they all completely echoed what I'm saying in this video, that it is so much more difficult than you can ever possibly imagine to work as, let's say, the lead employee, or maybe even the only employee in an indoor playground or a play cafe with one or more children. And again, I know so many of you are thinking, well, not me. Well, let me just tell you, I tried everything to be able to save money on payroll costs and work alongside my children. Even if it was for just a couple hours a day, I tried everything. I tried setting up paint kits. I tried having my mom come and help me out. I tried, allowing my son to talk to my mom on the phone during my shift. I baby wore for so many of my kids' naps that I now am suffering from like lifelong shoulder pain because of all of the baby wearing that I did when I was working behind the counter. And again, the same sentiment was kind of felt throughout all of the members inside of Playmaker Society, is that it really is so much more difficult than you think. Because when your attention is divided, when, you have one focus on your child, one focus on your customers, you have an eye on the register, you're trying to make coffee, you're trying to make an inventory list. I promise you, again, you're not doing yourself a service, you're not doing your children a service, and you are not doing certainly your business or your customers a service by trying to force yourself to work, again, alongside your children. And one of the other things that I guess people don't really realize before they're actually in the thick of it is that your children are going to start to think of your business almost as their second home, right? The place where they're most comfortable, the place where, they know mom or dad is distracted and the attention is on something else. So, I can get away with a lot more, or my behavior is going to be a little bit more comfortable. And this process happens much faster than you can ever expect. So again, even if you have the best intentions, even if you have a great support system, even if you have, all of the little activities planned, again, I really want to caution you against relying on yourself as your main employee if you do not have any childcare. And again, I'm not saying that it can't be done. In fact, a lot of people who enter Playmaker Society, they come and they say, listen, I work every single day. I'm burnt out. It's so much more difficult than I thought to work alongside my kids. And, the first thing I tell them is exactly what I just said. You're not doing anyone a service, right? So, not only does she feel like and I'm not speaking about a specific person, I'm thinking more about like the general person who is feeling burned out in this industry, more of like a, avatar, I guess. Not speaking about a specific person, but maybe I'm speaking about myself because I relate to this so hard and I went through all of this as an owner. So, again, maybe she's feeling very burnt out. Maybe she's feeling like not only she's not being a good mother because again, she's not able to discipline as well as she'd like. She's not able to give her kids her attention as much as she'd like. Maybe they're feeling a little bit neglected. And I promise you, like as parents, especially as moms, we feel this guilt when we're not giving our children our all. And let me tell you, if you're feeling that way about not giving your children the attention that they deserve, your business, even though it's not something that you're probably feeling that same parent guilt about, your business is going to suffer as well. So even people that are making it work and are working, alongside their children successfully, I promise you, even if you don't realize it as an owner, it is not a good look for the customers that frequent your business. Now, before I get into like this next thing that I want to talk about in this topic, I want to be really clear. I loved working with my kids. I loved bringing them to events. I loved having their birthday parties there. I'm talking about a very specific scenario here. So I learned really quickly, again, after I tried all the things, I learned really quickly that my kids are only going to thrive in this environment and we're only going to have, a healthy dynamic as business owner, as mom, as parent, if it's under, like I said, a very specific set of circumstances. So I used to bring my kids when I knew somebody else was working during our less busy hours, during events that were not going to be super crowded or super busy or super, overwhelming to them because one of my kids is autistic. So I made sure that I only brought him again under specific circumstances. But again, the key is after I realized just how difficult this is, I made sure that anytime I brought my kids or anytime that I had any expectation, that I wanted to be there for any length of time, I made sure that somebody else was going to be working, was going to be able to take care of the customers, was going to be able to handle all the orders because not only is it not a good look to, be completely frazzled and your attention pulled in a million different ways as a business owner, that gives a really bad impression to your customers. It's also not safe. So if you have, coffee equipment, if you're making lattes, I can't tell you how many times I almost tripped over my toddler trying to steam milk or trying to pour boiled water into a tea kettle. It is extremely dangerous. And there's a very good reason that most insurance companies will not allow you to bring your kids to work if they're going to be insuring you as the owner, which technically is optional. You don't have to include yourself on your workers' comp insurance, which I talk about in my video all about insurance. But most insurance companies will not allow employees to work alongside their kid. And if you allow your employees to bring their children, which in my opinion is the only thing worse than expecting to work, any amount of time alongside your kids without any additional help. The only thing worse than that is allowing your employees to bring their children. Most insurances will not allow that. So if something happens, if they accidentally burn their child with milk, if their child gets hurt because their parent isn't able to pay as close attention as they should, not only are they not going to cover that with your workers' comp or your business liability insurance, that employee is going to be able to sue you for gross negligence as an owner. So there is really no situation, again, as a main team member, so somebody who is operating your point of sale system, who is serving food, serving drinks, there is no circumstance where I think, again, an employee should be bringing their kid or an owner should be bringing their children if they don't have an additional set of hands there to kind of do those more dangerous tasks because it opens you up to a huge amount of liability, again, as a business owner. And again, it's not just going to burn you out very quickly as a business owner. It's not just unsafe. Again, you're really doing a disservice to your business and your customers because, and this is a really unfortunate truth that again, it's a big misconception in this industry that, we're all going to be, moms supporting moms. I love, walking into a business and seeing a mom, behind the counter with her kid and, it's all sweet and wholesome and things like that. I promise you, no matter what people say on social media, no matter what they might say to you, no matter how much encouragement they might give you, all of that compassion, all of that understanding, all of that grace, all of that patience is going to completely evaporate once they start making more significant investments in your business. So, as soon as it's their child's special day or their birthday party, again, all of that is going to go right out the window. And it's unfortunate, but they're not going to give you grace anymore. They're not going to be as understanding. If they call you, and you answer the phone, you're behind the counter, and they have all these questions about a birthday party, if you're not able to answer them, or if you're distracted, or if it's, you're negotiating with your 2-year old in the background, I promise you, they are no longer going to trust you to give them the level of service that they think they deserve as a birthday party customer. And they're going to call your competition. They're going to call, a community center. They're not going to host their party with you again, because even though, I love supporting other moms and I really like that, people love local businesses and they want to shop local and buy from people, not businesses. All of that can be true. But when it comes down to it, people are always going to prioritize themselves, their own kids, their own families more than your own. And they're not going to invest their hard earned dollars, whether it be for a birthday party, whether it be for an open play membership, if they don't feel like the priority is going to be on them. If every single time they walk into your business, you're again completely frazzled, or it's a mess because you haven't had a chance to clean it because, again, your kids were too demanding, or, I can't tell you how many times I've visited indoor playgrounds and walked into exactly the scenario. And I wanted to ask questions about birthday parties, or I wanted to order food or order a drink or anything like that, but I didn't ask those questions. I didn't make those additional purchases. I didn't spend all of the money that I wanted to in that business because I could tell the owner was overwhelmed. I could tell that, any order that I placed was going to stress them out even more. And not only did I not spend all of the money that I wanted to all of those different times, it really detracted from my experience because a lot of these businesses will advertise themselves as, a nice relaxing place for parents to go, and you can enjoy a nice cup of coffee or a latte while, the kids play. But if the owner is frazzled and everything's chaotic and feels very unorganized, that feeling is going to permeate so much throughout the entire facility, more so than you realize when you're in the thick of it. And I gotta say, this is one of those things that I didn't really fully understand until I, sold my business and looked at it from the customer's perspective. I thought I was doing okay. I've survived every single day. My kids survived every day. But now, again, as a consumer visiting all of these different playgrounds, I can see a lot more clearly just how much this cost saving technique of the owner working, even just a few hours a day by herself or by himself with their kids in a business, I see so much more clearly just how much it's restricting that business's growth potential. And I alluded to earlier how the only thing worse than, expecting to work any considerable amount of time alongside your kids is, the only thing worse than that is allowing your employees to bring their kids. And I talked about the legal and liability implications of that, but also, as a business owner, you care so deeply about your business. You care so deeply about your customers. And to be honest, so many times I don't want to say like neglected my kids, but I, did the shush thing just so that I could, make sure I was having a clear conversation on the phone. I was answering questions. I was, making small talk with our regulars. I definitely prioritize my business a bunch of times shamefully over my kids' needs. And that's one of my biggest regrets. But let me be the first to tell you. And again, if there's one takeaway you get from this video, let it be this. I promise you, your employees, people that are not, fully invested in this business, they are not going to have that same feeling or that same, you know, um, that same inclination to prioritize the business over their kids. They're just not going to care about it as much as you do. They're not going to give your customers the same level of service if they're feeling overwhelmed, if their kids are, acting up or whatever the case may be, or if they're trying to put their child down for a nap or, again, whatever the case may be. So that's why I mentioned that the only thing worse than bringing your own kids is allowing your employees to bring their kids. Now, in my summer camp video, I mentioned how there's a couple very specific cases where I do allow independent contractors to bring their kids alongside them. But that's because they're operating in a very specific capacity. They're not having any interaction whatsoever with customers. So our camp counselors aren't checking people in. They're not operating our point of sale system. They're not responsible for cleaning the play area. They're not responsible for making any drinks or handling any food. They have a camp assistant to do all of that. So that's really the only scenario is an independent instructor that's a class or camp instructor that has no interaction with customers. They only have interactions with the campers or the kids. And they have somebody else there to handle those more dangerous tasks, to keep the place clean, to interact with the customers. That's really the only specific situation where I do recommend it. Now, some caveats because, we're all human, things happen, people call off work. I am not talking about having to fill in for a shift or, every couple weeks, oh, so and so's running late. I'm going to bring the kids, I'm going to pack them up. We're going to open the shop. It's going to be fun. Doing that on occasion is just something that is, definitely, absolutely expected to happen in this business. And I did that so many times, I can't even count. But what I'm really wanting to, again, stress about in this video is that it shouldn't be built into your business model. It shouldn't be, built into your cost projections. Oh, we're going to be able to save so much money on payroll, so much money on staffing because we're able to work so much ourselves because, we built this into our playground for our kids. So why wouldn't they enjoy it every day? But again, I promise you, they're going to get bored way quicker than you think. They're going to be less occupied than you think. And it's just going to be a lot more difficult. So it's definitely okay on occasion, but it is not a long-term solution to staffing or customer service needs. It's just not. So I definitely transitioned to working more behind the scenes on my business, operating in my zone of genius. So I did a lot of the marketing tasks, a lot of the party planning and decor tasks, because that's what I am good at and that's what I enjoy doing. But again, I hope this video wasn't too cynical. I hope it wasn't too negative. I just want to be, again, really open and honest with you. And again, I thought that I was going to get a lot of differing opinions on this from the Playmaker Society members, and not every single person ended up responding. But again, the general consensus was that this is one of the biggest misconceptions and one of the biggest surprises when people actually do open their spaces, excuse me, and they realize just how difficult it is, again, to work on alongside of your decision. And one thing I wanted to add is, in addition to, not being able to serve your customers to the best of your ability, deliver the best experience. I talked about all of that, how it's just not a good look as an owner to, again, be juggling too many different things, to have your attention in too many different places. And I mentioned, the safety of your own kids. What if something happens to another child, to a customer? What if there's, what if one time somebody fell off of our climbing caterpillar, not more than 2 feet off the ground, and had a seizure, and I had to immediately spring into action. And I mean, my kids were with me at the time, and thank God I had another employee there with me who was able to call the police, provide medical aid, get the first aid kit. But there are so many things that happen in this day-to-day business that it's really just not responsible as a parent or as a business owner to, again, expect working alongside your children to be a long-term staffing solution. Because even if it's not something as serious as a seizure, somebody could vomit, somebody could have an accident. Your kids eventually, again, if your kids are small, they're going to eventually need to toilet train. And I promise you, again, that grace, that, mom supporting moms, that's going to evaporate as soon as your kids are having accidents all over the play area. Or if you're not supervising them as much as you should and they hit another kid or they bite another kid. Because again, once they start getting bored of the play area and too comfortable with their surroundings, not only are they going to become more defiant and obedient towards you, they're going to start acting out on other customers, on other kids. And that is just not a recipe for a sustainable, successful business, because people aren't going to book memberships. They're going to leave negative reviews. And if they see you as the owner, not supervising your child, that's going to set the tone for what your expectations are for your customers. And they might say, oh, well, kids obviously aren't supervised here, and they might go, take a phone call or, not monitor their kids as much, because you're setting that example as a business owner. And again, even if you're thinking, nope, not me, I'm different, my kids are different, I promise you, it's just as stressful of a situation for you to work alongside customers and juggle phone calls, juggle customers, juggle orders, juggle emergencies, juggle deliveries. juggle keeping the place clean. I promise you, you will not be able to keep your place clean enough to meet your customer standards. Again, if you're constantly alongside your children, it's just not going to happen. And also, your staff is going to get extremely frustrated if they don't come in and everything is done properly, if the entire closing list isn't completed, if things are a mess, if they have to do more than is typically required of them per their job description. They're going to get very frustrated with you very fast as an owner. And that can have an entire other set of negative implications when it comes to employee retention, employee satisfaction, and all that stuff. So, again, I just wanted to be honest and transparent. And I'm so sorry if this video, crushed your dreams or made you feel, not as happy as some of my other videos. I just want to set your expectations to be completely clear with this, because again, it is a lot more difficult than you think. So now, kind of wrapping this video up with my recommendation, I recommend, again, always overestimating your potential staffing needs, because it's always better to overestimate your costs than it is to underestimate your costs. So even if you think you're the exception to the rule and it's going to be just peachy for you to, again, work alongside your kid, you might be the exception. And I really commend you, again, for that optimism. Again, I had the same optimism going into this. But what I want to caution you against is, again, failing to at least account for staff members to be at least with you, providing an extra set of hands at all times, whether it's during open play or during birthday parties or during classes. I want you to at least account for, again, staffing, because you don't know if you're going to fall ill or someone in your family is going to fall ill and you're going to have to, again, increase your amount of payroll hours, increase your staff. There's so much uncertainty when it comes to, again, relying on one specific person or maybe a set of business partners to work there. You want to make sure that you overestimate your costs, because worst case scenario, again, if you overestimate your costs, you're just going to be able to take more of your profit home at the end of the day as owner's compensation. So that's the worst case scenario if you overestimate your costs. Now, the worst case scenario, if you underestimate your costs and you try to save money, again, by working alongside your kids or, working by yourself or whatever the case may be. The worst case scenario there is, something happens, you get sick, or you do realize that it is more difficult and more dangerous than you thought, and you are doing your customers a great disservice. Then all of a sudden, your business model is completely in shambles. You're going to have to rework your prices. You're all of a sudden not taking home an owner's compensation check, which is going to cause a lot of resentment, both with yourself, a business partner, a spouse. It's just going to be a mess. And you're going to have to make up for that income somewhere else. So I highly recommend, again, overestimating your costs. It is so, so crucial. And again, I hope that you understand the point of this video, and it's just to be, again, honest and transparent. And I hope it was really helpful. So if you did find it helpful, please feel free to, again, comment, like this video. I really appreciate it. And again, if you have any tips for working alongside your kids, I welcome them. Again, I love the optimism. And again, one other thing I wanted to leave you with is, again, even if you feel like you're doing it, even if you feel like, you are one of those successful owners who does work alongside their kid, I just want to give you a little hard truth. Because I promise you, even if your customers aren't complaining, even if you're not getting a ton of negative reviews, even if you feel like you're doing a great job, I promise you, the fact of the matter is you are absolutely restricting your business's potential. You're restricting your revenue growth. You're restricting your business in really all senses of the word. Again, even if you feel like you're, doing a great job. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Again, I hope that it kind of motivated you to put a plan B in place. Again, even if you feel like you are the exception to the rule. And I hope this was really helpful. So again, overestimate your costs. It's going to do nothing but give you positive benefits. And again, I will be back here with another video soon. Have a great day. Bye for now.